Hey guys, well today we got a little bit of a different project here in the shop. This is actually my 2001 Ford F-250 Super Duty. It's got the 5.4 liter Triton. It's been a great motor, and the guy that I bought the truck from, he's had a number of things done to it over the years, but basically what happened was I was driving it the other day to work and started to develop a miss. Well, this is pretty typical with these particular motors. They've all gone to this new system, which is a independent coil system. Basically what that means is just that each cylinder has its own coil. Before they used to have coil packs, or even before that, just one coil on the front of the engine. Well, a lot of them have gone to now an independent single coil. There's one in there. Maybe I can get a better shot with some better light. There's another one back in there, and obviously one for every cylinder. This is a V8, so there I got 8 of them in there. Well, here's actually one out of it. This is the new one I'm going to be putting in. This is an Excel Super Coil. Doesn't really matter which brand you go with. This is just the one I selected. As well as since I'm going to go in and actually change all these coils, because this is such a bear to work on, I'm just going to throw in some new AC Delco plugs as well. Just because I have it all torn apart. So basically, why do they do that? The reason they do that is just allows these motors to be much more efficient. The computer can control how each cylinder is functioning and vary it depending on the needs. So obviously when you're giving it a lot of gas, you're going to need a little bit more, and you can cut back on your usage and the amount of spark needed when you're not doing quite as much duty. So, but the other problem is when you have this kind of independent coil, when one starts to go, you start to develop a miss. And it's very typical for these in particular that once one starts to go, you start to lose a bunch more. So I'm starting to lose one and get a little bit of a miss at low RPMs. Once I give it some gas and get the RPMs up, it seems to be okay, but I'm just losing the resistance that I need, and it's going to be just time and pretty much inevitable that I'm going to start losing other coils. So that all being said, today I'm going to be digging in and tearing it apart and changing it out. So what I would recommend you start with is just take your rust buster of choice, whether it be WD-40. For this kind of stuff, I like to use PB Blaster product. It's available at a lot of your auto parts stores, in your Wally Worlds. So I'd recommend you pick that up, and it's really good for fighting rust and just some basic corrosion. So I sprayed that on all these coil packs, all these coils rather, and also try to get down around the threads, around the spark plugs. And wanted to get that in first before I even got to work on this. I sprayed it all down, let it soak in, and so that way it just starts cutting into that rust. And then while I dig in to get this all taken apart. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the air duct here, go into the throttle body from the airbox. Going to take that out so I can get access to this stuff, as well as I'll probably disconnect some of these hoses. If you do disconnect anything, another recommendation that I would make is if you don't have a really good memory, which I know a lot of us don't, we highly would suggest that you take some masking tape or duct tape, kind of wrap around the hose, maybe make a little flag tag out of it, and then write where it goes. Even if it's just something simple like A to A, 1 to 1, just some systems, so that way you can remember where you disconnected a cable. So definitely do that, and we're going to get to work here. I'm going to start tearing into it. Going to do one at a time. Probably do one of the front ones first, just to get used to it and make sure that everything's good, because if I have any issues, it's easier to fix the one at the front than the one at the very back. That'd be an absolute bear, and just gonna pray and hope that it goes well. And a little bit of luck goes a long way with these. The newer Fords are notorious for breaking spark plugs, however this particular model is not. So I'm just hoping with the proper rust buster, and hopefully the previous owner who put different plugs in would have used anti-seize. Definitely recommend you throw some anti-seize on your threads, and then it'll be a lot easier to take it apart. So let's start digging into this and see how it goes. Alright, now I'm a design engineer by trade, and I just got a comment about this. This is a terrible design. I don't know whose idea it was. Hopefully you guys can see this. But way down in there is the spark plug. You can kind of see the top of it right there. And it is down in there probably a good 4 inches, 5 inches-ish. Probably about 4 inches. Wow. That's all I gotta say to that. But now I can see why these things are so long. They do have a little spring in here, and what happens is you put the spark plug in there and then the spring compresses. And the other thing I want to say is that there's just one bolt that you're going to have here. In this case it would be facing this direction, and then there's the stud. You can see the nice clean metal, that's what it screws into. So you just got the one screw, then this pops right out, and you got to disconnect your plug here to your computer, and then this thing pops right out. You get in there and you take your spark plug out. Now it is really deep, and I am being critical only because it's just not convenient. But you can still get a socket down in there. You can still get the spark plug out. So we're going to change that out next, put this new guy on, and then go on to the next cylinder. Alright guys, well, I'm making some headway here. I've got all the coil packs off. The process that I'm using is one that I've used, but obviously you can do it in any order you want, I suppose. But what I suggest is that you take the coil pack out first, and then obviously then remove your old spark plug, then set your gap, use some anti-seize on your new spark plug, and then put your new spark plug on. And then once you reach that step, continue on to the next, and then the next, and do that for all 4 on this side. So right now I've removed all the coil packs. I removed all the old spark plugs and put in all the new spark plugs. So now what I'm going to do is then I'm going to take my new coil, the super coil as it is. I'm going to put that down in the last cylinder, the farthest back one, and then I'm going to put that in, plug it, and then bolt it down. You want to make sure you have that plugged in. Sometimes it's easier to do that first before you bolt it down, because otherwise maybe the wires are pinched or caught, and just as a safeguard. So what I would suggest you do is work your way back, and then once you get all those changed out, put your last coil in at the far back, and then work your way forward until you reach the last one, and then call it done on that side. It's just a lot easier. You're tight on space as it is, so by doing it this way, it just gives you the most amount of room to work. And then as you work your way to the front, it doesn't matter how much room you have in the back because you've already done it. So just the way that I do it, and going to finish this side up, and then do the same thing on the other side, which is just 4 more. Should be a little easier on the driver's side. I generally like to do the passenger side first because it's going to be the hardest, most difficult. And after you've been out here in the garage for an hour or so, you start to get a little punchy, and the last thing you want to do is deal with a whole bunch of tight quarters, hoses everywhere. And yeah, just for my own sanity, I like to do that side first and then do the easier driver side second. That way when it's all done, I'm in better mood and demeanor. So just some pointers on how I do it. Probably going to show you here how I set up the spark plugs. Highly suggest anti-seize, and especially, and then also on your bolts for right here to throw some anti-seize on that. It can never hurt. It just makes it easier to take apart if you have to do this again. So we'll continue on this project. Alright, so here I got the new coils in place. They look pretty sharp. I also like to clean the oil and stuff off them after I get them bolted in. But they were pretty easy to install. Just slide them in first, make sure that they're attached to the spark plug. Then again, I recommend that you do the plug first. So plug this in. Sometimes these wires get a little twisted, so make sure to plug that in first and then do the bolt. And make sure to put some anti-seize on that bolt as well, just as a safeguard. Can't hurt. And then now that I got this side done, which was definitely the hardest because of all these hoses and stuff. Now yeah, I could have disconnected all the hoses, but that just adds to the time, and it's more of just taking your time and being careful, and then you won't have any difficulties. So now we're going to go ahead and grab the light so you can see a little better. I'm going to start on this side. There's a pack, there's a coil, and then there's a coil back in there. So the driver's side is definitely going to be easier to get at just because it's less stuff in the way. But we're going to go ahead and do that next, and then we'll be done. So it'll look pretty sharp. So I'm going to just repeat the same process. Going to take off the front coil, then pull out the old spark plug, put in the new one, then go to the next, and then the next, and then start working my way towards the front, putting in the coils, and then it'll be done. The coils go in really quick. It is the last part of the project, and it's just fun to see it all come together. So we're going to go ahead and get that done, and then see how it works. Alright guys, well, after a few hours of some hard work and just being careful to make sure not to break anything, got all the coils in place. Got all 8 of them in there, 4 on this side, 4 on the other. You see them bright yellow there, all plugged in, ready to go. So all I gotta do now is just put the air inlet hose back on, and then we're good to go and hit the streets again. So there you go guys, just a quick video, just kind of outlining how I go about changing the coils on a 5.4 liter Ford. And if you have any questions, feel free to send us a message or leave a comment. Again, this is just how I like to do it, and it works just fine. And I guess my best advice that I can give you is just take your time, be careful, and reap the rewards when you're done. So there you go, and until the next video, we'll talk to you later guys.